Welcome back to Galaxy Brain. Across every Gundam timeline, every war, every conflict, every arms race, the battlefield has always favored one thing: distance. Beam rifles, mega particle cannons, funnels, long-range artillery. If you can destroy the enemy before they ever see you, why wouldn't you? But there are three mobile suits, from three completely different universes, operating under three completely different sets of physics, that looked at that logic and rejected it entirely. Three machines engineered from the ground up for one purpose: to close the distance, get within arm's reach, and end the fight with their hands. And here's what's terrifying. Despite originating from alternate timelines, despite relying on entirely different physical laws, Gundarium versus nanolaminate, fusion reactors versus AHAB reactors, all three of them arrived at the exact same conclusion. That true melee mastery cannot exist with a machine. It requires the total, violent removal of mechanical delay between pilot intent and machine execution. The Gundam must cease to be armor and become flesh. This is the God Gundam, the spirit, the Gundam Barbatos, the body, and the Gundam Epyon, the mind. The three deadliest close-quarters machines ever built, and the human cost of piloting each one. Let's start with the one that turns the pilot's soul into a weapon system. The God Gundam doesn't use a cockpit, not in any traditional sense. It uses the mobile trace system, a full-body suit that maps the pilot's movements one-to-one onto the mobile fighter. Every punch, every kick, every shift and stance. The Gundam doesn't interpret commands. It mirrors the human body in real time. But the mobile trace doesn't just copy movement. Inside the God Gundam's chest is an artificial aura generator, a system that actively refines the pilot's inner Kai, their life energy, into raw, measurable mechanical output. Read that again. The machine does not provide the power. The pilot's physical and spiritual conditioning dictates the Gundam's maximum yield. That means the God Gundam is only as powerful as the person inside it. And when that person is Domon Kashu, the King of Hearts, the Gundam fight champion of the entire world, you're not fighting a machine. You're fighting a martial artist who happens to be 18 meters tall, whose life force is being converted into kinetic destruction in real time. The weapons reflect that philosophy. The Bakunetsu God Finger, the suit's ultimate finishing mechanism. When hyper mode activates, the 6 core lander wings deploy to generate a magnetic field coating. The pilot funnels multiplied Kai directly into the G-knuckles through the forearm channeling conduits. The resulting energy crushes and superheats enemy armor simultaneously, penetrating straight to the target's core. It's not a beam weapon, it's a handshake from hell. Then there's the God Slash, twin beam swords mounted on the hips. But these aren't standard sabers. The output and blade length are directly proportional to the pilot's channeled martial energy. Push enough Kai through them, and they carve through massive targets or project energy waves. The God Slash Typhoon and the Sekiha Tenkyoken, the ultimate technique. Both hands thrust forward, projecting a massive sphere of concentrated energy. This isn't something the suit generates on its own. It requires the pilot to push their body and spirit to the absolute limit. Which brings us to the cost. And the cost is physiological. The mobile trace system doesn't just read movement, it reads everything. Pain, exhaustion, fear. Because the machine's output is a 1-to-1 ratio with the pilot's body, receiving damage in the mobile trace system inflicts literal physical trauma on the pilot. Not a warning light, not a vibration, real damage. Every hit the Gundam absorbs, Domon's body registers as trauma. Extended combat requires fatal levels of cardiovascular and muscular endurance. The God Gundam doesn't just drain your energy, it breaks your body at the same rate it breaks the enemy. And hyper mode, that golden state where the suit's power output skyrockets. It's not a button. It's triggered by raw emotion. The pilot has to reach a state of total focus and fighting spirit so intense that the suit's emotion-reactive armor responds by unlocking its full potential. The stronger the spirit, the more devastating the output. But the body still has to survive what the spirit demands. The God Gundam turns your willpower into the engine and your flesh into the fuel. Now we go to the opposite end of the spectrum. The God Gundam is built on martial arts philosophy. Barbatos is built on one physical law. In the post-disaster era, the only thing that kills is blunt force trauma. 300 years before the events of Iron-Blooded Orphans, the Calamity War changed everything. Mobile suits adopted nanolaminate armor, a coating that renders beam weapons completely useless. Energy disperses on contact, harmless, deflected. The armor penetration matrix is brutal in its simplicity. Beam and energy weaponry? Highly ineffective. Light ballistic like the smoothbore gun? Occasional penetration, but unreliable. So how do you destroy a mobile suit you can't burn through? You hit it so hard the frame buckles from the inside. And to do that, you need two things. A weapon heavy enough to transfer catastrophic kinetic force, and a power source strong enough to swing it. The Barbatos has both. Dual AHAB reactors running in parallel operation, a feat so difficult that only 72 Gundam frames were ever produced to fight the mobile armors during the Calamity War. This reactor output provides the immense raw thrust required to accelerate high-mass melee weapons to armor-crushing speeds. The Mace, the primary kinetic delivery system. Forged from high-hardness rare alloy, the same ultra-dense material used in mobile suit frames, to ensure structural integrity upon extreme impact. The head won't shatter because it's made of the same thing it's hitting. 4 independently activated thrusters on the rear of the head provide extreme artificial acceleration, exponentially increasing the kinetic force of a thrusting attack. A telescopic handle dynamically adjusts mid-swing to maximize mechanical leverage. And at the center, a pile driver needle, a centralized spike rod that fires from the tip upon impact for absolute pinpoint armor penetration. Then there's the longsword, produced by Teiwa's technicians, exceptionally lightweight for localized strikes. In its early deployment, nanolaminate armor made broad slashes useless, so the sword was used for precision gap targeting. The Alaya-Vijnana system allowing the pilot to identify and aim exclusively at microscopic gaps in the enemy's nanolaminate coating. After receiving an improved grip to minimize kinetic energy loss, combined with total neural synchronization, the blade became capable of slicing entirely through both armor and internal frame in a single perfectly optimized strike. But the weapons aren't what make Barbatos terrifying. The pilot interface is the Alaya-Vijnana system, an organic man-machine interface developed during the Calamity War. Composed of 2 parts, hardware installed directly into the mobile suit, and an organic implant fused directly into the pilot's spine at a young age. It connects the pilot's nervous system to the mobile suit's computer. No joysticks, no levers, no manual controls of any kind. The standard pipeline, brain to hands to joysticks to machine, is completely eliminated, replaced with a direct line, brain to spinal implant to mobile suit frame. Thought becomes action, 0 latency. The machine becomes a literal extension of the biological body. And here's the thing about Barbatos specifically. When it was discovered on Mars, the original cockpit was missing. A mobile worker interface was installed instead. And the system's data limiters, they were never switched on. That means pilot Mikazuki August receives raw, unfiltered data directly into his brain. No safety buffer, no overload protection. The Barbatos transmits a dangerously high volume of spatial data at the exact speed of his own neural impulses. Every gap in every enemy's armor, every trajectory, every calculation flooding in at full volume. The result is reaction speed no standard pilot can match. The cost is neurological, and it's permanent. Removing the Alaya-Vijnana limiters redirects crippling mechanical damage feedback directly into the pilot's organic nervous system. The more Mikazuki syncs with Barbatos, the more his biological systems shut down. Not temporarily, permanently. Physical paralysis of his right side outside of the cockpit. Loss of motor function. Loss of sensation. He can only move normally when he's plugged into the machine. Mikazuki trades pieces of his humanity every time he connects. The perfect melee loop. That's what the tactical analysts call it. Step 1. The nerve. The Alaya-Vijnana organically processes microscopic gaps in the enemy's nanolaminate armor and instantly feeds the spatial data to the pilot's brain with zero latency. Step 2. The muscle. The pilot's neural intent instantly fires the AHAB thrusters, simultaneously triggering the Mace's rear-mounted accelerators for maximum weapon velocity. Step 3. The bone. The high-hardness, rare alloy strikes the target. Piledriver deploys instantly on impact, transferring overwhelming kinetic force perfectly through the armor, shattering the frame beneath. It is not 3 separate systems. It is a single, frictionless execution of violence lasting less than a second. And then there's the aristocrat. Epyon wasn't built by a military contractor or resistance movement. It was built by Trees Kushranada, a man who believed war should be personal. That if you're going to take a life, you should be close enough to witness it. He rejected what he called cowardly long-range combat in favor of chivalrous close-quarters engagement. So he built a Gundam with 0 ranged weapons, none. By design, no beam rifle, no Vulcans, no missiles. Nothing that lets you kill from a distance. 100% of its engineering, power output, and cognitive processing channeled into a single terrifying truth. If you bring a sword to a gunfight, you must ensure the gun never fires. Every weapon on the Epyon exists to make that guarantee. The beam sword, mounted on the shield, but this is not a standard beam saber. Standard sabers rely on limited rechargeable energy capacitors. E-caps, they run out. Epyon's solution, a direct generator feed. Through a high-output cable providing limitless, battleship-class plasma output, capable of severing heavy mobile suit armor in a single swing. The swing radius of this sword defines the zone of absolute lethality. Matter within that sphere is categorically destroyed. The heat rod, a segmented, whip-like physical weapon housed in the same shield. It deploys with non-linear trajectory, meaning, unlike beam shots that travel in straight, predictable lines, the segmented articulation allows the heat rod to wrap around physical shields and parries. And here's the constraint it solves. Beam weaponry can be deflected by specialized anti-beam coatings or planet defensors like the Mercurius. Epyon's answer is a physical, superheated kinetic countermeasure that is functionally unblockable. The segments melt through Gundanium alloy on contact, shattering standard defenses and rendering traditional blocking maneuvers obsolete. The operating length of the heat rod creates the zone of denial. Enemies are hurted, disarmed, or have their shields destroyed before they can even draw a melee weapon. And the Epyon claws. The hands themselves are weapons, for when the sword and whip aren't personal enough. But how does a melee-only suit survive a battlefield full of beam rifles? The Zero System. The mind of the dragon. To wield melee weapons exclusively, the Epyon must perfectly evade all incoming ranged fire. Standard human reflexes are insufficient to calculate the necessary orbital mechanics and evasion thruster burns in real time. The solution? The Zero System feeds total battlefield data and millions of tactical predictions directly into the pilot's cerebral cortex. It doesn't show you the future on a screen. It forces you to experience it. Before it happens. Step 1. Battle data enters the pilot's brain from the suit's sensors. Step 2. The brain calculates all possible tactical futures. Step 3. The Zero System feeds the perfect victory path, back into the pilot's optic nerve. The Epyon's outer threat zone, the precognitive evasion zone, is where the Zero System detects all incoming target locks and dictates perfect evasive maneuvering. Enemy ranged weapons functionally have a 0% hit probability. The kill sequence is called the inescapable checkmate. Step 1. The Zero System highlights the enemy's future dodge path. Step 2. The heat rod deploys into the predicted evasion route, hurting the target, restricting movement. Step 3. Beam sword at point-blank range. Elimination. The mind predicts. the whip traps, the sword kills. Epyon's weapons do not operate in isolation. They form an organic, inescapable trap. Treize did not build a brawler. He built a machine that uses the enemy's own reactions against them, turning the cowardice of retreat into the guarantee of their execution. But the Zero system isn't free, and the cost is psychological. The system overloads the frontal lobe with infinite causality processing. There's a window, the perfect victory zone, where the system feeds clean predictions and the pilot operates at superhuman efficiency. But past a certain combat duration, the neural load spikes exponentially. The system pushes beyond what the human brain can process. Prolonged exposure guarantees hallucinatory breaks from reality and complete loss of self-preservation. Every pilot who has used the Zero system has been pushed to the edge of madness. Some didn't come back. Treize didn't build a forgiving machine. He built one that demands you be worthy of it. 3 suits, 3 pilots, 3 different ways the machine eats you alive. The God Gundam's toll is physiological. Your body is the power source. Every punch thrown drains your Kai. Every hit taken registers as real physical trauma. Extended combat demands fatal levels of cardiovascular endurance. The spirit may be willing, but the flesh has a limit. Push past it, and the mobile trace system will kill you before the enemy gets the chance. The Barbatos toll is neurological. The Alaya-Vijnana system, with its limiters removed, redirects every ounce of mechanical feedback directly into the pilot's organic nervous system. Mikazuki August paid with permanent paralysis of his right side outside the cockpit. He can only move when plugged into the machine. The Gundam gave him superhuman ability inside the frame and took his basic humanity outside of it. The Epyon toll is psychological. The Zero system floods the frontal lobe with infinite futures. The pilot doesn't just see what might happen. They live it. Every possible death. Every possible failure. All at once. If you watch Jujutsu Kaisen, think about what Gojo's infinity does to his opponents. That overwhelming flood of infinite information crashing into a finite mind. The Zero system is infinity turned inward. On the pilot, instead of the enemy being crushed by limitless data, it's your own brain drowning in every possible future simultaneously. The difference is Gojo chose to master infinity. The Zero system doesn't give you that choice. It just opens the floodgate. Prolonged exposure shatters the boundary between prediction and reality. Hallucinations, paranoia, total psychological collapse. The mind becomes the sharpest weapon on the battlefield, right up until it breaks. 3 timelines, 3 completely different sets of physics. Gundanium alloy versus nanolaminate armor, fusion reactors versus Ahab reactors, Gundam fight arenas versus post-disaster wastelands versus the battlefields of the Eve Wars. And yet all 3 arrived at the exact same point. The CQC singularity, the moment where the mechanical delay between human intent and machine execution reaches 0. The God Gundam erased it through the spirit. Barbatos erased it through the body. Epyon erased it through the mind. Spirit, body, mind. 3 paths to the same destination. 3 pilots paying the price in flesh, nerve, and sanity. Because the ultimate weapon was never the suit. It is the seamless, devastating fusion of the pilot's mind, body, and spirit with the machine.